Coach, what's the hardest thing to simulate for the first game?
Tackling. Because, look, you probably, the first thing is you want to get all of your guys to the first game, and you're trying to protect them as much as you can, but yet you got to tackle, right? And so I think the ability to simulate tackling is probably the biggest thing. And then, full field special teams, kickoff return, punt return, infield spacing, again, where, guys got to get off blocks and make plays in space. So anytime the game gets out within 53 and a third, it's easier to duplicate the game within a box. But when that thing gets, put out 53 and a third and it's spread out in space, it changes the complexities, and, that's where it's harder to duplicate.
And can you update us on kickoff and also who will be holding on PATs and field goals?
Yeah, holder will be Peyton. He'll be our holder. And he's done a really good job. In terms of PAT, Damian Ramos will be our PAT and field goal. It's still pretty competitive. Nate Dybert's done a really good job on kickoffs. As you know, Aaron Burrell has just been cleared. He'll be not available this weekend, but should be available next weekend, and he's got a real chance to, compete for that job. But Peyton Todd will be the holder. Damian Ramos will be our kicker. As I mentioned, Blake and Peyton will both be punting in the game. Slade will be our long snapper. Slade Roy will long snap. And I like our battery. It's a really good unit.
Hey, Coach, what sort of led you to the decision of using Blake and Peyton as your punters? Then, if that's the case.
Well, we want to include the ability to move our punter this year. Jay was not somebody that felt comfortable in a rugby fashion. He wanted to be a down-the-line kicker. But Blake is accomplished in that and feels comfortable in that kind of Aussie rugby type environment. And there are times that you want to be able to implement that, and he's comfortable and accomplished with it, where Peyton Todd is much more of a down-the-line guy. So it gives us two weapons within our punt arsenal, and we want to be able to take advantage of that.
And why did you guys want to sort of implement more of the Aussie style of punting? What does that give you?
It allows you, from a overload protection standpoint, to make it a little bit easier to handle. I don't want to say different defenses that you may see from a punt return unit. Sometimes they get junked up a little bit, and it's hard to identify some of the. When you're able to just scoop and not block the backside and just run away from it, essentially, that's where it becomes useful. And secondly, you can pin the ball into the outside third much easier and essentially kick it away from dangerous return men.
Are you happy with the amount of tackling that you're able to do in August? Would you prefer more, or is it just right? And do you have a number 2 quarterback? Who's your number 2?
Is there enough tackling? I think if there's any more tackling, you probably put yourself at risk for injury. So I think we probably got it just about right. I think what you have to really be good at is simulation of tackling. And how do you get to that simulation through really good technical work, and I think that's what we're going to have to see. I think we've included a lot more. I think, in my opinion, drill work that allows us to simulate that. We do have a second quarterback. It's really going to be both of them. AJ and Ricky combined give us the best option at the number 2. So we think that they have different skill sets, and we're going to utilize the combination of both of them to give us the best number 2 situation.
Coach, for a defense that's still kind of trying to establish itself, it's kind of hard to think of a tougher challenge than a Lincoln Riley offense. So can you kind of just describe what that system does to a defense, like how it challenges a defense?
So the air raid offense is one that we've seen many times. It's precision. It is fundamentally, based upon wanting to throw the football, but will attack you in the run game if you are over committing yourself to the pass. And so its roots are in Mike Leach's offensive structure, and we've seen quite a bit of it. Each head coach has its own way of kind of tweaking it a little bit. Lincoln has his own flavors. They implement the tight end much more than any of the air raid offenses that we've gone against, and do a really good job with the tight end on the field, so they're not a 4 wide receiver air raid, which gives them a better opportunity to include a run game and be good at the run game. So what does it give us in terms of challenges? A really good play caller, somebody that's going to keep you off balance, reverses, trick plays. He's going to be non-traditional in many ways. This is not going to be, that seems like a call I would have made. I think these will be times where our guys have to be on their toes at all times.
Coach, quick injury update. Chris Hilton, Miles Frazier, any updates on them?
Frazier is good to go. He's practiced all week. Chris is still in progression, and we're hopeful that we get him ready to play. But he's making good progress.
And I've also got a sort of big picture question about the complexion of your roster. When you think back to when you started, since then, the number of transfers that you've signed has sort of gone down year over year. The number of players you signed out of high school has gone up year over year. I'm wondering if that's intentional, or is it more of a coincidence on your part and your staff?
No, it's intentional. Everything that we do is with a purpose. So you'll continue to see us get to the point where the culture and the standards of the program will be one where we want to be able to recruit the state of Louisiana as our base. We want to be able to develop our players, retain our players, obviously build great relationships so they stay, and then watch them have success while they're here. And we want to do that through the developmental process in terms of developing players. And it's a lot harder to do that when they have 1 or 2 years remaining and they have other habits that they've built somewhere else. So we want that to be something that is part of what the fabric of our program is. That does not mean we won't take somebody from the transfer portal. That doesn't mean we won't take a transfer. But the culture, the standards, who we are as a program will be based upon developing freshmen.
Brian, 2 questions. You said earlier this year you do whatever they want to do in terms of pregame routine, but LSU saying that that's going to stay the same. Does that please you? And also, the SEC announcing that all schools are going to have to do in the football, basketball, baseball, going to have to do the player availability reports as you started doing last year. Does that
Yes.
please you as well? That it's going to be across the board.
I do.
Uniform?
I mean, I think it's a smart idea. I think it just takes away this idea of we're trying to hold information, and I think the more things that we can do across the board as a conference, the better. And when it comes to injuries, being transparent with that, similar to what the NFL does, I think is a good thing. As you know, we started doing that last year, and, I voted for that, obviously. There was some conversation about what the best way for us to announce it, probable, questionable, out, all of those things. But I think we all agreed as coaches that coming out with some kind of statements during the week was a good idea. As it relates to the routines, look, I can make a routine work anyway. My job is to prepare our football team and get them ready to play. I've been a Division II head football coach where I've had to, prior to a game, shovel the field. So, look, this is, I'll do whatever they tell me to do, right? I mean, these decisions are made above my head, and I'll get our team ready to play and tell me what time to get them out on the field, and I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, you guys have not been scared to play true freshmen in their first games. Just curious, over the last couple of weeks of preparation, have there been any that have stood out to you that could see the field this Sunday, and just kind of who might those guys be?
Freshmen that could or will see the field. I think on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, there's less, there's less likely of that kind of scenario happening. I think defensively you could see a couple of freshmen get on the field. I think Ahmad Bro is probably the one guy that could see the most action. He's the most ready physically and mentally to play for us. PJ Woodland is another freshman that, is likely to see some playing time. Now, that doesn't include some freshmen that make cameo appearances on special teams. But if you're talking about, defensive snaps or offensive snaps, those two guys in particular, I think have a real chance. I think at the safety position, Deshaun Spears has a chance to see some action as well. So those probably are the guys that jump out at me.
Brian over here. I think most would agree that the LSU fan base doesn't really need any assistance in getting up for a football game in Tiger Stadium. But what are you as the football coach, and what's the football program anticipating from the new lights and video boards, graphics, all the new bells and whistles over there, just to improve the in-game experience, not only for the fans, maybe for the team as well?
Yeah, I don't know that it impacts the team as much as it impacts the fan experience. The fan experience will be heightened. I remember when I was at Notre Dame, we had wooden bleachers and we had no Jumbotron. And what we found was that, the history and tradition is one thing, but when everybody's looking on their phone for information and not paying attention to the game, it takes away from the game experience itself. But now when you look up on a massive board and it's got all the information, and it's got all the bells and whistles, and you've got ribbon boards that are always constantly feeding you information, it definitely helps for the game experience. And, I think the lights add to what, is, increasingly becoming much more of an event, if you will, in Tiger Stadium. And I think that that's an enhancement as well as the speaker system. So all that together, I think, our players are going to enjoy just being in Tiger Stadium. And it certainly is going to catch them, but they get so focused in on what's in front of them. But I think for the fans, it's going to be a heightened experience.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned on Monday that a lot of your guys on the team have battle scars from the last couple of openers. I just wanted to know, is there a certain kind of different mindset that they have going into this game against USC, a special kind of hunger, wanting to win, or do you guys just treat it kind of like every other game?
I mean, look, it's pretty, I think you have to always keep in mind that there's a number of players on this team that have experienced, 2 openers where they weren't successful, including myself. So, there's a resolve there that, you want to be prepared in any way to see that you come out victorious. And so their preparation has been outstanding. They've prepared. Now they know they've got to perform. So they're going to handle what they can handle. But I think they're going to draw on experiences. And that's what I meant by battle scars. Battle scars are really about, the things that you can pull on that are going to be helpful for you, and allowing you to be your best when your best is needed. And I think that that's what we'll see with a lot of our guys that have played in these games. They're going to draw on past experiences that are going to help them be successful.